Court's gone too far?
We're seeing a bureaucratic sledgehammer being wielded to miss an out. Of course, there's an issue in some cases about the liberty of individuals who are detained against their will. But the idea that care homes in my constituency are going to be investigated by the police if someone dies in their care because of a supposed death in custody is absurd. Now, when the Supreme Court made its decision in 2014, it adjudicated on the basis of the European Convention on Human Rights. And I think what we're seeing is a vivid illustration of what happens when judges make rulings, ministers pass responsibility, and I couldn't believe the minister was saying that the Law Commission should decide. I mean, I thought we had something called a parliament to make our laws, and that ministers would be properly accountable.
In fairness, he's saying that he'll get the law commissioners to look at it and then we'll do something about it.
This is really serious. The number of applications has gone up from nearly 10,000 to 93,000, and that is going to cost £42 million, an estimated additional cost on councils. That's money councils are going to have to take from other priorities to spend on what is a bureaucratic overkill. I think it's really worrying. But we're governed in this clumsy way because we're not able to actually elect councillors to make these decisions. We end up with this sort of huge system of bureaucratic overkill. It's appalling. There is going to be huge need to put additional resources into dementia and mental health services. And that's one of the reasons why at the last manifesto I was proud of the fact that I stood for a party that was going to give a commitment to spend more on dementia. But we can't see what finite resources we have being sucked into a system of bureaucratic compliance so that care homes that are doing a brilliant job will be treated as if somehow they're responsible for something untoward. This is a Kafkaesque madness. It needs to stop. Andrew's report was absolutely brilliant, but the one small flaw is he was talking about all that wonderful trade and exchange that happens between us and Europe. Absolutely, and that's going to continue once we've left. You don't need to be in a political union in order to trade. What we will change is the fact that every week, we send £350 million over to Brussels, which I think we would be better off spending on improving our environment, improving local services, or investing in the NHS. We spend 60 times more on handouts to Brussels than we spend on the NHS Cancer Fund.
Isn't the problem that in the Leave campaign is that somebody has to paint a picture of what this region would be like, or Britain would be like, outside of Europe, and we don't know what that would be.
We know it would be a lot more prosperous. We've tied ourselves to the world's only declining trade bloc.
He would disagree with you.
And you know, in fairness, I respect Tony far too much to take issue with him. But you know, the reality is that if we're able to have free trade agreements with the world, we can grow faster. We can have all the benefits of trade with Europe. And there's really important things that currently some people in the region will think are advantages of being in Europe. For example, the funding that comes into our universities. We can continue to do that. In fact, if we're no longer sending 20 billion to Brussels and only getting 9 billion back, we can invest more in university research and that sort of thing.
Talking of politicians, the Leave campaign needs a charismatic figurehead, doesn't it? And there isn't one.
It needs a range of figureheads. You earlier said that a lot of people have voted for UKIP if the European Union was such a good idea. Why? Supporting the campaign to leave is not the same thing as voting for any one party. Just as you can want a good environment and not necessarily vote Green. There are lots and lots of people out there. Who would you like to see leading your Leave campaign? I would love to see on the Labour side people like Kate Hoey, Frank Field. I would love to see good Conservatives. I would love to see people who aren't actually politicians at all, but people who create wealth, create business, scientists coming out and saying,
actually, the one you haven't mentioned is Mr. Farage.
He's certainly part of it. Absolutely.
But you don't think he would be the man to lead it?
No. He would be part of it, but this needs a broad coalition. All historic movements for change, real progressive change, require a broad spectrum of support, and I don't think any one party can provide that.
All this money for rural areas, that's good as far as it goes, but it could be more.
Great, but in my part of the world there are communities like Jaywick and Brooklands. I don't think they're going to see this funding. I'm just a little bit concerned at the same time that, yes, Essex is getting a relatively good deal. It's only part of the equation. On the other side, they're actually losing a lot more. And I think overall they're going to be left off worse than they were.
I agree. You're in complete agreement, you two.
I think, sadly, a lot of this is made on the basis of political priorities and pork barrel politics rather than on genuine need. And I think it's sad.
But anything that comes to the in the rural areas is good news.
But
just very quickly.
the real deprivation in my part of Essex is not in the rural areas. It's in West Clacton and Jaywick.
Good. Both of you, thank you very much.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.